Hello and welcome. Today I want to introduce you to one of my favorite free resources for learning Excel and specifically for um, getting some great best practice examples of using modern Excel. And that is the daily Excel challenges shared by Excel BI, Vijay Verma, on LinkedIn. And they all look like this. They've got these, very jazzily presented, people thinking strange thoughts about their challenges. They all show, here's the input and here's the expected answer. Um, and the beauty of them all is that people share their solutions to these and the quality of posts here, like just John Vergara, for example, is just consistently excellent. Chris Jagana, I'm sure Bo Ridabon is here because he's always here with like the shortest, the like most concise M code and formula solution. Like, look at this. The whole solution is just less than one line long. But that's pretty typical. Um, Aditya is actually an excellent one as well because he documents his formulas like a programmer. So it's all kind of laid out very neatly and kind of explained at the bottom. But there's great people to learn from. I want to sort of show you a little bit how I use it, and a big part of how I learn from these is the sort of stumbling through of something I haven't seen before and then comparing it to what comes later. So rather than doing a prepared one, what I've done is I've grabbed this sheet which Vijay shares, and I'll post a link to it down below. This has like links to all the Excel challenges so far. We're up to the 160s and we're up to the like 60s in Power Query challenges. And so I'm going to let the gods of fate slash ran between tell me which one of these ones to attempt. It probably won't be one I've seen before because I haven't looked at most of them before. So I'm going to give it a go, and then I'm going to take a look at some of the other solutions and kind of walk you through those. So let's see. I'm going to look at number 77. Mm-hmm. So first, let's grab the file, and I'll download it. Oh yeah, I remember there was an array of sports-related ones for a while. So let's see what this one is about. ELO ranking. Oh, interesting. Okay. Find the countries of best and worst improvement in rankings. Okay, got it. All right, sorry, I thought we were going to have to calculate changes in ELO rankings, but no, it's just we've got an old rank here and a new rank here. Find the countries which had the best and worst improvement in rankings. Morocco improved by 24 ranks. Belgium and Ecuador had worst improvement by -5. So first thing I'll do is just a kind of more longhand solution. Then I'll try to refine a little bit. So first, let's just add a column which is rank change. And then I guess we can, again, let's just do it longhand, best, worst. So best is the max, the worst is the min. And then we could filter, or I guess, sorry. Oh, interesting. So we're labeling it category best and worst. All right, fine. Well, anyway, first I'm just going to filter on this by, sorry, I don't want to include the header. Filter on this by this equals this plus this equals this. And there you get your teams and your worst, and then you do a little more shuffling around to get it in the right format. So that's, typically there's like an easy way to approach it like that. The aim, I guess it's not the officially stated aim, but at least the aim among the people who tend to comment on these, and the challenge to you if you want to use this as a chance to kind of improve your modern Excel, is rather than doing it out longhand like this, try to write a single formula that will produce this output. So let's think about how we might do that. Well, first of all, we don't need to produce this interim column, right? So we can just produce that on the fly. So we can say let diff be this minus this. Then we can say, I guess best be max of diff, worst be min of diff. Then let's see. Well, basically, we have to allow for the fact that there's going to be potentially more than one. So what could we do here? We could say, well, first let's just not allow for that. Let's just do, so we'll do vstack. We want one thing on top of the other. So, so first we want, the best team name and improved by, then we want the worst team name and disimproved by. So we're going to vstack two things. So the first one for the best, we're going to hstack best. Then we're going to filter the team by diff equals best, and add best. And then basically the same thing for worst. We're going to hstack worst with filter team by diff equals worst and worst. And that'll mostly work, except that we'll have a wobble. Huh. I don't. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I get it. Okay, so two things. One is I've done the sign wrong here. So I'm just going to swap the order. So now we've got best Morocco 24, worst Belgium -5, but these two are NAs, so we have to expand. So how can we do that? Well, I guess can't use countdiff. So my thought was, well, we could use expand to get this to a certain size. Yeah, let's do that. We can do that. Expand this, or actually, let's do one more bit of prep, which is we'll do CNT best, which is sum minus diff equals best. I need one more bracket here. And the reason I'm using sum minus instead of countif is because countif won't work on a calculated column. So if you output the column into the grid and then do the countif on that, it'll work. But if you want it all as part of a dynamic array, then that will not work. So that's count best, and then let's do count worst. Worst minus diff equals worst. And then we'll do all this, and then we can expand this to number of rows, which is CNT worst, and fill with worst. And, ooh, didn't like that. Okay. So, quick bit of debugging. I'll just rename this output step output and just output one of the interim steps just to see, is CNT worst not behaving the way I want it to? No, it is. That's giving it 2. Okay. So then let's try this. If I output that, doesn't like that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's because I forgot to leave a blank for the column argument before putting the pad width. Okay, so then that works. Oops. So now let's go back to outputting the output. And we're basically there. Then we just need to do the same thing here for expand worst, CNT worst, comma, worst. And if we were going to do it properly, we'd have to do the same expand up here to allow for there being more than one best team. As you can see, this formula is working, but it's starting to get quite cumbersome. CNT best. And again, I got to put a second comma there, and expand best, comma, CNT best, comma, best. Okay, so that gets you there, but it's pretty ugly. Let's take a look at what some other people came up with. Rather than, I mean, I could play around with it more and try and improve it, but this is going to be more interesting. All right, so let's see. Owen Price had a go at it. Oh, and look, he even included the categories as part of the formula. So let's see how he did it. So he said that the diff be, oh, interesting. So one kind of style point that he gets over me is he just took the whole range as an input, which is more flexible if you want the range to be able to expand. So that's nice. So he takes the last column minus the first column, that's the difference. Takes the min of diff and the max of diff, labels. If diff equals min, then worst. Ah, that's smart. That's smart. So rather than kind of expanding these later, he basically added a new label column. So if diff equals min worst, if diff equals max best, otherwise blank, and then you can filter that, filter where the label is non-blank, sort on the third column, which is the improved by descending. That's a much nicer way to do it. And then he v-stacks the column names on top of that so that it outputs the whole thing. So that is a much nicer approach than mine. Let's see what else people came up with. This is Muhammad, again, is a regular poster and always has a very nice approach. Let's see. Looks like his is V is max of A, sort filter H stack if A equals V best, otherwise worst. Oh, interesting. That's a clever approach. So he doesn't even calculate the min, he just calculates the max, then he sorts it. So he stacks if same, he calculates a label column if the difference is equal to the max of the difference and he calls it best, he calls everything else worst. Then he stacks that next to the team name and next to the difference. And then he sorts that. So wait, so what's he filtering on here? I'm getting confused. That's the array. Okay, so he then filters that on either A is equal to max or A is equal to min A. And then he sorts it. Nice. Nice. And let's take a look at one more. I got Power Query solutions in here as well. So if you're working on learning Power Query, that's a handy thing to have. Let's see what Aditya came up with. Aditya always has the most nicely documented formulas. So he's a good role model from that perspective. So let's see what he did. And again, it's sort of all short names here, but they're all explained down here. So data, current rank, previous rank, team, subtract, expression, best, worst, return. So D is the input data, current rank is the first column of that, previous rank is the last column of that, team name is the second column of that. So again, it's just kind of good kind of programming practice to just think of the data as one input blob, because then if you were to say add more rows down here, then you just need, there's literally one cell reference in this whole formula that you need to expand, and then everything else follows. That also sets it up nicely if you wanted to write a lambda to take an input and do this stuff with it. So it gets all those columns, the S, which I guess is the change, S is the subtract, okay, but the change is previous minus current, and then he defines a lambda of AB if in a filter H stack. So filter B, so B, remind me again. Oh, sorry, B is just one of the inputs to this. So given two variables, filter the first variable next to T. Okay, so in other words, this B is going to be best or worst, and the A is going to be a value for the difference. So we're going to stack the word best or the word worst next to the team, next to the difference, and we're going to filter that on difference is an input. And then, oh yeah, so the if NA B is just going to fill out the label B the rest of the way down. So then he's going to say, here's the best. You apply that function to the maximum difference in the word best, and here's the worst. You apply that function to the minimum difference in the word worst, and then you just stack them all together. So it's this format is obviously never going to be as kind of short as some of the others, but there's some really nice kind of programming good practices in here. Um, from when this thing of like define the last output and then output it, it just means it's very easy to debug by saying, okay, let's give me the value B. Okay, that's my best teams. That's working. Give me the value W. That's working. So just, if something is wrong, you can kind of debug individual pieces of this quite nicely because of the way it's set up. Like I said, only one cell reference. That's all really nice. And then you just got a bit of abstraction here. The idea is, well, you want to solve two parallel problems. Well, just pull out that common piece of work into a lambda function and then go and apply it. I think probably my favorite one of these is Owen's, just because he didn't even have to deal with it as two cases. Um, I guess Muhammad is basically the same idea and even a little tighter. Anyway, you can kind of see the idea. Like, it's it's quite easy if you use helper cells and space things out and kind of take your time to work through it and get it done. It's more of a challenge to come up with a single formula, and then you can very easily see here's a bunch of like best practices around how people document their formulas, around cleverer ways to think about either abstracting to handle the two different cases or ways of dealing with them both together, and so on. There's like the quality of commenters on these posts is just off the charts. So every single day you will see just amazing, some that are just incredibly short, some that are incredibly nicely designed, some that are like beautifully laid out like proper, computer programs. There's the whole works there. It's like I said, it's one of my favorite kind of free resources for learning this kind of thing. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.